This episode is brought to you by BeWaterSmart.info. Make your trees summer strong by watering them slowly and deeply using a soaker hose or drip irrigation at least once a month. Learn more ways to make your yard summer strong at BeWaterSmart.info.
Look at that plant. I want you to know that everything was grown in my garden. Don't touch that plant!
Is it poisonous?
She'll become part of the plant.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Flower Power Garden Hour. I'm your host, Marlene, and
I'm your co-host, Bruce.
And today we are talking about trees, more specifically, how to properly water your trees, young and old, to save water. But we're going to get into more tree talk as well, like when's a good time to plant trees, how to plant trees, and we're going to get our guest's list of his favorite trees. And with me, speaking of experts and guests on trees, is Kayden Rsenbauer from the Sacramento Tree Foundation. He is a certified arborist. Thank you for joining us, Kayden.
Thanks, Marlene. Yeah, great to join you guys on the podcast.
Yeah. We were talking off air. Kayden, you said you've worked for Sac Tree Foundation for 6 years, and I worked there for a year, years and years and years ago as urban forester, was it? So it's a great organization. Can you briefly explain Sac Tree Foundation, and then more importantly, sort of what your role is?
Yeah. So I started out getting my bachelor's degree at Sac State, and then moved into an internship at Sac Tree, doing the urban ecology stuff, and then moved into our program. My background basically explains Sac Tree because I've been in every section, but essentially went from urban ecology, which is now our reforestation program, and then moved into urban wood rescue. And urban wood rescue is basically a program where we mill live edge slabs and lumber from trees that have fallen in the Sacramento area instead of it going to like landfills. So if you're looking for like redwood or like raised garden bed stuff to make raised garden beds, it's a great option. You can come visit us at our yard. After that, I moved into that same role that you were in, Marlene, community forester, and now we have a newer position. And the community forester position is essentially just meeting at people's houses or meeting virtually, and we work with an awesome partner, SMUD, and you get up to 10 free trees a year for your property. And then after I worked in that, essentially it's called a community arborist position, and I work with parks, schools, and the city to essentially host planting events and get trees in the ground.
Awesome. So you've been involved in every aspect of Sac Tree.
Mm-hmm. Yes, all the things.
I love their reclaimed wood program. That is such a good and fun and interesting. And I'll have to have someone talk about that one day. Maybe I'll have you back talking about that because it makes much sense.
I would totally love to come
tour.
Yeah, a tour would be fun too.
Oh yeah, totally. You guys were welcome to come by and I'll show you around.
Only if I could use one of the big planing like saws.
Saws on there. I don't know about that one. We could try. We could try to see if we can swing it.
All right. Okay. So the Tree Foundation is a nonprofit, and basically it's just helping to reforest. And they work with SMUD, and they have a great shade tree program, like you said, up to 10 free trees per like customers of SMUD for shade trees. Yeah. So
Exactly.
Speaking of trees, is now a good time to plant trees, or when is the best time to plant a tree? Would you say?
Yes. I would say fall. So Sacramento is unique. You're not like on the East Coast or like Midwest sort of thing where you have those harsh winters. So you can go ahead and basically plant in the fall, and it gives it that nice like buffer time before we have our really hot, Central Valley summers. So planting right now, I would say, is a really good time to get trees in the ground and give it that good, healthy time.
Yeah, because you don't have to worry about hitting that cold spell for a tree. Because if we're only planting trees that could survive through the winter, and you work with particularly just shade trees, and I take it that means deciduous trees. When someone says a shade tree, what is your def? Oh, okay, okay.
We have deciduous and evergreen tree options, and we do have a few fruit tree options that kind of change around a little bit. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, we have a few different options. If you check out our site, it shows kind of we're really good at keeping on top of like the options that we have available.
Okay. So you're probably like me, maybe even worse because this is your true job now. But when you drive around and you see a tree that's planted, do you count in your head how many things are wrong with the planting of it? In a nice way, of course. We never
Oh.
want to like embarrass a homeowner.
Yes.
But let's go over the steps of how to properly plant a tree and more importantly, the don'ts, because I think those might stick in the head more than the do's. But let's
The
say
do's, yeah.
you got a tree.
Mhm.
And let's do a quick site. Where would you put, say, a medium size tree in a yard? What is the exact good spot for a quote unquote standard yard?
Yeah. For a medium-sized tree, we tend to
Mhm.
be around 10 to 15 feet away, depending on the species.
Okay.
And then you're going to want to do an 811 call to check to see if there's any underground utilities that you're kind of near.
Okay.
And also, 5 to 6 feet away from any hardscapes, just to try to avoid the root systems possibly interfering with that. And then you have to redo your cement or something like that.
Okay. And so say so about 10 feet away from the foundation of a house, at 5 to 6 from like say a sidewalk or something. Now, most people, would you say that they're really excited and they dig a hole and they dig it really deep?
I would say that is not the problem. I mean,
No. I
you
guess
gotta
in this
look at
ground,
the root flare.
I guess in clay soils, it's probably not, huh? Because they're just
The less deep, the better in this
yeah,
soil.
exactly.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say actually I would see that people maybe don't dig a big enough hole, just kind
Okay.
of loosen up the dirt. I mean, the main thing, it's going to be different, like depth-wise for each tree, depending on the species and depending on how long it's been on the pot. If you take basically the first step of planting, I would say is clear the grass, dig the hole 4-ish feet wide. But then the depth, you can pull out the pot first, pull the tree out of the pot first, liberate those roots. So look for those girdling roots because long term that can sort of choke out the tree as those roots get bigger. And so you just take some nice sharp pruners and kind of clip it, and you can be kind of aggressive about it, get in there.
Yeah.
The tree can handle it since it's young. But once you pull it out, a lot of times the nurseries, they bury that root flare,
Uh-huh.
and that's just where the trunk and the roots meet. And so you take that tree and you kind of make sure you can unbury that and look for that spot where the roots are kind of starting to begin. And the reason you do that is that bark on there, or the trunk there, is not meant to be kind of covered. It doesn't have that same sort of water protection as the roots, I guess you would call it. And it would actually start to rot that trunk out if you left it long term. So definitely a very important part of first planting the tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you buy a tree, often you just see the trunk coming straight out of the soil. So what you're saying is when you see a tree in the ground, you see some of those roots exposed up top just a little bit. And that's that root flare that you were talking about. And that's what
Yeah,
you sort of
that's
want
okay
to
to see that.
uncovered. Yes, you want to see it, sounds like.
Yeah, it's a little better to be, if you were going to err, right? If you're going to err about it, you would want to be probably a little higher than you want to be a little lower.
Mhm.
But ideally, you want to find where you're not really seeing the roots, but you're not covering that trunk, that middle ground. When you dig the hole, you can lay a shovel across and kind of adjust the depth of the tree to get that right spot. But you also have to take into account when you put the soil back in, it tends to compress. So you could go a little bit above just to kind of make up for the fact that it's going to sink down. That way you don't have sort of like a divot in the ground. But you also don't want a volcano either. So there's just like it's a very delicate thing that you can kind of pay attention to just to make sure you get the right depth for the tree. But that's also what you pay attention to when you're digging that hole, because you don't want to dig so far down that you kind of wasted your time, or you don't want to dig so low that the tree is just hanging out and the roots are going to dry out and it's not going to be very happy.
Yeah, because
And I have
go ahead.
to add in that
Mhm.
I've planted quite a few trees where after I've watered in, I said, oops, it's a little too low. And some of them are drought tolerant or drought requiring plants. And then I have the problem of the water starts settling in and flooding them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So-
Then
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
yanking
definitely a
them
problem
back
too.
up. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Then it's
what I
like,
was saying, because the soil will settle. So if you dig deeper and then you backfill, that soil is going to settle. So it's always it sounds like it's a little bit better to plant slightly higher than, but 4 feet wide is the width recommendation.
Yeah, I like to kind of give it a wide thing. And what I've noticed when I do a lot of demonstrations of planting trees, if you tell people to sort of do it any less than that, if you don't exaggerate a little bit, then they tend to do maybe a little too small.
Yeah.
So you kind of tell them a little bit more of a max size thing, and then they might
Yeah.
inch in a little bit, and then you're getting a better looking tree in the end.
It's like
you
when you
say
tell your
4 and they do 3.
Yeah, it's like when you
Yes,
tell
yeah,
your friends who
yeah.
are always late to, oh, no, you have to be here at 5, and you really just needed them. At
We all
4.
have relatives like that.
Yes,
Yep,
yes, yes. And I know a lot of people are probably like, oh my God, but the ground is so hard. If you just have them soak it 2 days ahead of time and let it dry out, would you say 2 days ahead of time of soaking a heavy clay soil will sort of allow it to be a little more pliable?
Yeah, or even just the night before, I've
Okay.
seen makes a huge difference. So yeah, if you could do 2 days before, that's even better. Yeah.
Okay.
I've found that occasionally the ground is so dry and hard that you have to actually do series of wettings, because the first one just runs off, and if you do like a little
Oh,
bit at
yeah.
a time, it gradually gets in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That takes
yeah.
a while.
No, it can.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm surprised you didn't say when I said when is the proper time to plant a tree. Weren't you supposed to say like last year or yesterday?
Last 5 years ago,
20 years ago.
Yeah, isn't that?
Yeah, no.
Before you were born.
Yeah.
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 mhm.
Okay, and then a big thing I think people do is they want their tree to grow, and they're like, oh, I can't put the soil back, and that's horrific. I'm not going to put this new baby in with this soil. So they go and buy bagged potting soil and put in the hole.
Yeah,
Why is that?
that's a no-go.
Why is that a no-go?
The tree loves the native. Well, it doesn't love the native soil. It's that's not a good wording, but it needs to get used to what it's going to be in for the rest of their lives, because those roots are going to go a lot farther than that hole is, and so when you give that really nice stuff in the center, it can kind of mess with the root system, and just overall better to let that tree get used to what it's going to be in for the rest of its life. Yeah.
Is it worth enriching? Like if you have, in my case, I have extremely hard, almost soda clay soil. I mean, I could use that clay for pottery. Is it worth it in those cases to at least mix the soil up with a higher quality to get the tree off to a good start, so get the roots start to grow? Or is that
So-
still not a good idea?
I would say if you're concerned about it and you feel like it's like there's going to be an issue, what I've done in the past is just have it sort of be on top, and then it leaches sort of down into the soil. Same with like you can mulch will provide a lot of that same stuff in a better way, in my opinion. So putting that like 4x4x4 donut of mulch around the base of the tree helps with water retention, helps kind of change the soil chemistry over time as the nutrients sink in there. It's also a temperature regulator. Yeah, I can't say enough about mulch. I know I was listening to your podcast, Marlene, in the past, and I think you had somebody on who was really into like murder mystery ones with plant. I remember them saying something about not thinking mulch is all the hype or something, but I would say I like mulch a lot. I think I noticed like a pattern. I don't know if it's the way that people care for their trees, when like maybe they care for it more if they put mulch, like they're doing other things too. But it seems to me when I go to people's houses and there's mulch and things like that, the tree grows a little faster. It looks a little nicer overall. So that's another big
I can't
thing to
believe
me.
I had someone on who just said mulch is a passing. I probably will never have them on, because I mean, I believe mulch is like the most important thing for trees and everything. So when you say mulch, do you recommend compost? I think because that's my gold standard for a mulch is compost, because it does exactly what you said. It'll change the soil structure over time. It adds nutrients. But would you say maybe good quality wood chips would work as well?
Yeah, that's usually what I recommend is
Mhm.
wood chips. You can the SMUD has a yard that if you just call ahead of time, we have this on our website too. So if people need to find the resource, you can go pick it up, mulch at their yard. Just bring a shovel and like put a tarp down, and call ahead just to make sure they have some. Other option is chip drop, where you can actually order basically tree companies from around to kind of connect you with them, and you get it dropped off at your property. Or if you're really particular, because you don't necessarily get a choice of what tree it was that was
Yeah.
cut down.
Yeah.
In those cases, you could order from like kind of go directly to a place and get specific ones. I just don't recommend doing like a dyed mulch or
Yeah.
something. You want to do something that's natural and hasn't been really messed with, you know?
Don't use
Yeah.
rubber.
Yeah.
Yeah, please don't use
No.
rubber. Yeah.
So you mentioned the 4x4x4. So I'm assuming that's 4 feet wide, 4 inches deep, and then what's the
4
other-
inches away from the trunk, because
Okay.
that can kind of
Yep.
act like the soil itself and kind of rot it out if you just keep having
Okay.
sort of a volcano of mulch on the trunk of the
Yeah.
tree.
Yeah. And no matter
And
what
we've
it's
seen that volcano mulching where they mulch like a foot high. It's very
oh yeah.
doesn't even look good, but it can't be good for the plant.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
when it's against the trunk. Yeah. No, you want that area. And then I mean, no matter what though, the mulch is going to help with this. It's going to keep that grass from growing close to it because
Mhm.
that's going to cause problems, multiple problems if you have grass growing up to it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. People are always, when I'm helping them out, or schools or any place that I'm working with, they're always concerned about like the root system
Mhm.
of the tree, like long-term affecting, like maybe digging up hardscape or doing, messing with these more permanent parts of the, like a park or something like that. And mulch and regular watering and all these things combined really reduce that risk. So if you do have that concern, I would definitely put mulch down. It will help
Okay.
reduce it.
And
for
it
sure.
definitely, and then also if you don't have things growing up, you won't hit it with the weed eater and cause
Yes.
damage.
Yeah, that is I see that. That is another thing. If you're worried that you might do that, there are tree guards that you can put on the base
Yeah.
of the tree. We try to do that to all of our
Okay.
like parks and schools and all these things,
Yeah.
because I come back, years later, and then you
Ugh.
see the poor trunk, maybe getting hit, and you're like, oh no,
Oh, I
might like
know.
stunt the growth or something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
I've girdled my share of trees accidentally that way.
Oh,
I
no.
think we all have when, I'm like, I know where the trunk's at. I know I shouldn't have let this get,
I'll
or,
be
it's like,
fine.
or even if it's weeds and I haven't, and I'm like, I'll be fine. And then you hit it and you're like, well, that was stupid.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's get into some watering. So when people planted their tree, a lot of times they're planting it in the yard and they think, okay, well, I have lawn sprinklers and fair enough. Tell us how to plant a young tree in a grass situation and in a non-grass situation. What are some recommendations? How much water? How do you know it's getting enough or too much?
Yeah, so for the tree, in grass or not grass, I always recommend, no matter grass situation or not, pulling that grass back. In the beginning, you don't want that grass right near the trunk. As the tree matures, you see it in parks and things, like the grass is right up against the trunk, and a lot of trees can handle that. But in the very beginning, definitely keep the grass away and do like a 4-foot diameter, so like 2 feet away at least on one side. And as far as watering when it's a young tree, I recommend, if you have the ability, to do some sort of drip or soaker hose situation. If you don't have that option or ability, you can take a 5-gallon bucket, drill a little 1/8 hole inch in the bottom, and sort of kind of every time you go to water it, move it around the tree, and let that water kind of slowly dribble out. When it's a young tree, you're going to water it a little more frequently than you would a mature tree. So you're looking at, depending on the season, if you're like in the summer, you're looking at maybe 3 times a week.
Okay.
And in like the fall, winter, spring, that can range a little bit, 1 to 2 times a week, 1 to 3, depending on if it rains or something like that. And a way soil is all different, so nothing's super exact.
Yeah.
But if you're worried, or if you're seeing sort of maybe stress signs or something like that, you can take a longer, you can take like if you don't have like a soil probe, which is just like a long thing that you stick in and takes out a piece of soil. If you don't have that, you can just use a screwdriver and put it in the ground, and you can kind of put your hands on it. If it's super powdery and nothing really comes up, then you probably need to water your tree. If it's like goopy and all wet, it's probably got plenty of water. And if you're kind of in that middle ground, or not plenty of water, too much water, and then if you're in that middle ground, you're probably okay, and it doesn't need as much water at that time.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so about 3 times in the summer, the heat of the summer for a young tree, but always check the soil because if it's in a poor draining area, it could be in standing water and it can mimic almost being underwatered. So always
Yes,
check your soil. Even if you
that's
have the
stress.
sprinklers, right? A lot of people assume, oh, my lawn sprinklers are on, but your lawn sprinklers may go on for 10 minutes every day. And what would happen if a tree relied on that only?
Not going to get enough water. Yeah. Well, and if you're in a grass situation, that's going to uptake that before the tree roots are. So you want, deep, slow watering over a longer period of time. Um, and it doesn't allow the evaporation to occur before the roots can receive it. And that's another good reason why mulch is so great, because it can kind of hold that water retention. So
Mhm.
even if you're a little, light on the watering, or like time wise, it can kind of hold it for you a little bit longer in those hot summer times.
So when would you
Now,
go ahead?
what about our drought tolerant plants that if you're putting in, let's just say, I think a Palo Verde, which might not even have leaves in the summer,
Mhm.
what do you do with those as far as watering schedule
Yeah.
when they're
With the young
leafless?
trees, with the young trees, I would say you're still kind of doing the same thing. And then as those trees get older, then that's where you would start seeing maybe a difference in how you're watering. So I would consider a young tree to be more like between like 1 to 3 years old.
Mhm.
And so you're kind of having a similar pattern up then, and then you might reduce that watering slowly or differently as the tree matures.
You answered my question. I was going to ask, well, what constitutes a young tree? So this regular pattern for about 1 to 3 years, and then you sort of transition it out.
Transition it.
Yeah.
hmm
So when people
hmm
move into a new house and there's a completely, let's say, mature older tree, um, a lot of people just assume older mature trees never have to be watered because their roots are everywhere and they're getting water from somewhere. Um,
hmm
is that the case, or do you always recommend infrequent periodic watering or a regular watering system for mature trees?
Infrequent, I would say.
Okay.
Again, it's one of those things that, research your tree, know what kind of the water
Mhm.
needs are, and check your soil. You're going to be your best advocate. Like the online, it may give you a general idea, but of what the needs are, but keep an eye on your tree. But you're looking at usually less frequent watering, maybe once a month of just a
Okay.
long, deep watering for that tree. And in that case, you're not going to be using that bucket
Yeah.
for watering. You're going to be looking at sprinklers, which is not as ideal, or the soaker hose is what I prefer,
Okay.
or a drip system that kind of has um, drip irrigation that's going kind of all around. And you're going to want to place that around the drip line of the tree. A lot of times I'll be driving around and you see somebody watering their tree and they're putting their hose right up against the trunk
Yeah.
of the tree, and that's not where it's going to be uptaking water, right? A lot of the sort of feeder roots that are taking up those things are going to be further out where the drip line is.
Now, can you
Yeah.
define drip line for people?
Yes.
Yeah. So like if you're looking at the canopy of the tree and you stand back, it's going to be that very edge of where the tree's leaves sort of end. And that's where you're going to that's the sweet spot for watering.
Yeah, because they're not right there. They're sort of further out. So that's a good idea. Just sort of draw an imaginary line from the end down. And you're saying
hmm
do sort of a drip line. And infrequent maybe once a month during the summertime, during the heat
hmm
of it. Even if
Yeah, a
once again,
longer infrequent one.
yeah.
And when you do the soak rows, you kind of do like a spiral sort of shape, and that kind of
Okay.
covers more area. But um, yeah, once a month is probably. And there are some trees. Again, you got to research like certain native trees that maybe don't like that watering, like the blue oak in the summer. That can be, you need to know what if you're moving into a new place, what your past people did to their trees a little bit too. If you can figure that out, if you change things up a bunch, then that's kind of where you can see some troubles as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned blue oaks because they're natives and
hmm
they're grow in areas that get no summer irrigation. So they
hmm
can handle it. And so you hear people with oaks, don't plant that underneath an oak or don't plant underneath an oak. And we're talking about valley oaks even too. Why
Mhm.
is that? Is that the same because they're not adapted to summer irrigation? Or
I feel like you could still definitely plant stuff under there. Stick into native stuff, have it on separate things. Um, in more native stuff that I've seen, it seems to be fine. But yeah, if
okay.
you got to be careful. Just you don't want to flood
Yeah.
the space or mess with the tree if you're changing a bunch of things. Give it some room
Okay.
between the base of the trunk and the stuff like that.
So basically, things that would be along the lines that would grow naturally with them.
Hmm.
Yeah, not
Hmm.
something like a hosta. No hostas, Bruce.
Oh, no
No
hostas.
hostas. None of your East Coast loving shade plants.
Hmm.
Yes.
Now, are there ever cases like, for instance, I have a extremely large redwood on my property, and I could never picture giving that enough water to satisfy it if I'm just irrigating by hand, with a poker hose. Is there a point where a tree reaches a certain size that your watering is not going to make much of a difference, or do we never really reach that?
Watering will make a difference. I mean, that's the one big thing with redwoods. They're not really supposed to be here, but we have them here.
True.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is the one thing that I see sort of kills them is maybe they don't get enough water. Somebody new moves in, they don't realize that the tree needs more water. But I definitely see them struggle more just because they're used to that like coastal fog situation. And so like the tops of them, you kind of see them like died from the
Yeah.
top down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need the frequent shallow water because of that
Mhm.
Right,
that
'cause they're
fog drip they
very
rely on.
shallow
Yeah.
roots.
So I get this goes back to what you're saying. Know your tree.
Yes. Yeah.
Like
Right.
this time of year, the Buckeyes are completely deciduous. So
Hmm.
they don't need the water. I assume like a tree with its leaf still in July would
They
need.
Yeah,
So
lose their leaves in the summer,
mhm.
so
Yeah.
it's sort of a different time than a lot of the other
Yeah.
trees. So people get confused, like, what's happening to this tree?
No,
But
no,
yeah,
it's
it's just
dying.
sort of a
Yeah.
different on a different timeline than others.
Yeah. When
Yeah.
would you start? So I know young trees they get sort of like gangly looking, and people really want to start shaping and pruning them.
Hmm.
How would you say to go about the process of shaping and or pruning a young tree? What would you do?
Well, we do have a resource online to give kind of a general idea,
Okay.
but don't ever prune more than 20% of the tree in a year, and then you have to have a reason why you're pruning a limb.
Hmm.
You don't want to just prune with no reason. Oh, why is this branch just cutting it off because you don't like the way it looks or something like that? Trying to stick to um, looking at it being balanced and it has a one central leader.
Yeah.
Um, and when you do this, if you do that while it's young, what you're going to look at is like a lower cost issue in your future because you've kind of shaped the tree to be structurally sound, and you don't have limbs that are maybe risky or something like that.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
don't want you resist the urge to top a tree when it's young.
Oh yeah, don't
Stakes.
yeah, just don't top trees in general
Yeah.
is my
Yeah, I
my
always say never
my
top a
thing.
tree.
Never
It's
top a
Yeah.
tree,
wrong.
except for fruit trees. That's totally different. That's allowed. So staking. So trees and nurseries they come with the stake attached to them, and then a lot of times
Yes.
people will just assume they're going to leave that, or then you see where they've staked out about a foot and they've almost done it correctly, but they've left the nursery stake on. Go through just like
Yeah.
the quick staking steps.
Yes. So I see that all the time
I
with
know.
the nursery stake, and I sort of like gorilla pull them out
Yeah.
and take them out for people sometimes, or I've talked to people. I'm like, yeah, if I see them outside,
Uh-huh.
hey, your tree, you can move.
Do you
Yeah.
sneak
But
around neighborhoods removing plates?
Yeah. They're
yes,
like, there's that
no, I
weird
don't do
tree
that.
guy again.
But yeah, definitely remove that nursery stake. That was just for transport, essentially. Take it out of there. With the other stakes, if it's a small one, oftentimes when we deliver our trees, we don't even give them stakes if they're small enough. You don't
Okay.
need to
Yeah.
stake them. And then if they're bigger, a little bit bigger, and they're taller, a little, a lot of nurseries like to cut kind of the lower branches. If you do get a tree that has lower branches, don't cut those, by the way, for a while.
Okay.
It does shade the trunk and
Mhm.
help with other things. But if it is sort of lollipop, sometimes it needs a little help holding itself up. So when you do that, you're looking at two stakes. Um, I usually do about 12 inches out from the
Okay.
base, no more than 2/3 up, kind of between like the 1/3, 2/3 area. And then you don't want to do it too tight because the tree needs a little workout essentially to
Yes.
get strong. If you do it too tight and then you leave it for that whole year, it doesn't trigger sort of the growth of that wood that's going to help it stand up on its own. So when a big wind comes, you'll see it snap. So removing that stake, after a year or two, you can give the tree a good shake. And if you see the ground doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
move when you do that, that's probably a good sign that it's time to take off the stakes. And as far as placement of the stakes, you can look at kind of the way that the wind is blowing and place it properly. If you have things like maybe you have a park across the street where there's a soccer field, you could also place it so that if a soccer ball were to hit it, would probably hit the stake instead. So just thinking
It's a
about
good
different
idea.
things that might be a good reason why you're putting, you want a good reason of why you're putting it on a certain direction of the tree.
Yeah.
But yeah, not too tight, and remember to remove them. And big thing, the nursery stake, because that can cause weird growth patterns and
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
You have a
And
drunk
it can
neighbor
also, if
that.
they put the stake on too tightly, or tie it on too tightly, it can also eventually girdle the tree if you don't
Yeah.
move it.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah. As it gets bigger,
I've
and
seen
like
that enough times.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you
I've-
want to tie it with either the tree tape, or if you insist on using rope, run it through like a section of hose, so it's sort of buffered against the trunk. At least that's,
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you have a drunk neighbor who keeps falling into your plants, make sure it's on the side where the drunk neighbor
Put the
will fall
stake
in.
on that
Yes,
direction.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Soccer balls or drunk neighbors. Okay, let's get into some of the fun. Well, I think fun. I mean, the whole thing's fun, but um, I want your top 3 trees, and we're saying shade trees, but that could be really any top 3 trees that you would recommend in the category of small, medium, and large. So let's start with small. So what are your 3 favorite small trees, and of course, why?
Okay. This is always hard for me, but
Yeah.
I will try my best because I
Okay.
feel like they change around.
Well, that's fine.
As they
Today,
should.
at the moment.
Yes. Okay. At the moment, I would say I really like the Bubba Desert Willow.
Okay.
I think that's
Yeah.
really good, like low water needs tree, very
Okay.
pretty. The
And that's
flowers are really nice.
Chalopsis or Chitalpa? The Chitalpa is the cross, right? And Chalopsis linearis is the true desert willow, I think.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I always get the catalpa and the chitalpa mixed up in my head.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes.
It'll be
So
the
yeah, I believe you're
Chitalpa
correct.
is the
Mhm.
cross, I think, if is the
And Chiliopsis, is that also?
Chitalpa. That's don't add a third one to us,
Chalopsis.
Bruce.
Yeah,
That
what
sounds like
I-
something I'm eating for dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the desert willow. And when you
Yes.
say willow, people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's recommending a willow for drought tolerant. But
Yeah, it's not like the aggressive root system sort of thing, or like, and it's not the heavy water needs that you're thinking of with like that traditional. Well, it's not really a willow in that sense.
Yeah.
That's the problem with common names.
Yes.
Yes,
It is.
yeah,
But we do
yeah.
like them. I mean, I like common
Doesn't look
names.
like a willow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I agree. That one's really, especially the dark purple flowered ones.
Very pretty.
Mm-hmm. I would say, if you're just trying to play it safe and and have another nice looking tree with sort of low maintenance, probably an eastern redbud.
Yep. Pretty low
and then-
maintenance, right? I mean, you shape
yeah.
it. A lot of times people are like, well, I don't like the pods. And I just say,
Right.
well, you're going to get something with any tree. So, yeah.
Yeah, I get that a lot where
Yeah.
they ask for, I don't want anything that drops. I want it to be fast growing. It doesn't need water. It doesn't need.
Then
and
get a
I-
beanstalk. Get some magic
Yeah.
beans.
yeah. I always think in my head, well, if you find that tree, let me know.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
will start citing that one.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
exist.
You got one more in the small category.
Let's see. Maybe the Chinese fringe tree is another nice one.
Okay.
With the,
I agree with
the
that.
white
Yeah.
flowers.
Yeah.
Another kind of lower maintenance one too. I think that's a pretty cool one as well.
And then when you say
That's a wonderful tree.
it is a wonderful tree. Small they get to about what? How tall? Like, 'cause most people think small 6 feet, but that's not true. I mean, for a tree, we're talking small is
Right. Yeah. This is small, I guess, in the shade tree sense.
yeah,
So you're thinking more like 15 to 25 feet,
yeah,
depending, on different factors. But yeah, you got a range of about 15 to 25 feet.
yeah.
I've seen mature ones of those, 25, 30 years old that are still about 15 feet
Mhm.
without
Mhm.
trimming. So
Mhm.
they're,
Yeah.
and they smell nice in the spring, by the way.
And I think all 3 of those are relatively fast-growing trees. They really are. They could
Yeah,
grow quick.
I would say I would say they're all
Yeah,
decently.
decently fast.
The Chinese fringe might be a little slower, but
Mhm.
yeah, the other two I think are very similar.
Mhm.
And then, it all depends too on, you can get a one that's supposed to be fast growing, but if you're not doing that care that's
Yeah.
needed.
Oh, and
So,
speaking of that, what
mhm.
would you recommend to people who are like, well, I want a bigger tree right away. I'm going to go get this 2 foot or, a 24-inch boxed tree versus, say, a 5-gallon tree. Are there benefits to that?
Not
Yeah.
really. I would say the only benefit is if you live somewhere where there's a lot of vandalism.
Oh,
Then that's maybe a good point. Like if
okay.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of kids around, they like to mess with the tree, something like
Yeah.
that. But otherwise, the only benefit that's the only real benefit. Those younger trees, they're not in the pot as long,
Mhm.
so they're a little more happy when you go to plant them. When you get those bigger ones, they've been in the pot so long, the roots. I tend to see a lot more issues in that area. And growth wise, I've actually seen the small trees. We do number 5s for our shade tree program.
Mhm.
I've actually seen them outgrow the ones that are 15s.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a waste of money
Yeah.
for the most part if you're getting that bigger tree, other than, yeah, you have a little more substantial look to it right off the
Right off
bat.
the
But if
bat.
you care for your tree, you're probably going to have a better long-term
Or if you have
thing
that
happen.
drunk neighbor
Yeah.
again, like you're saying, falls into
Mhm.
it.
He
Sorry.
falls
I
into the
really, I
trees.
don't even have neighbors, so I don't know where this drunk neighbor came from. It's just,
That's funny.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so those are your 3 small, medium trees.
Medium, yeah, for the mediums.
And this is probably what most people have in their yard, because I'm guessing large is, I mean, when you see a large tree, you're like, I can't picture those trees in like an average sized backyard now, but they're small to medium. So medium, I'm guessing medium is like up to your 35-foot level, 30-foot level
Yeah,
or so.
we call mediums around like after it hits like 35, between
Okay.
like 35 and 50, which I feel like
That's
50 is still getting
medium.
kind of large.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
know. 50 is large. Yeah.
yeah,
But compared
I
to
would
some of these
say,
trees, yeah.
yeah, that's what I would say. Compared to the other ones, it's
Mhm.
still, quite a bit different. So,
So
yeah.
what would you say would be one of your favorites?
So in the medium side, I do like the fruitless olive for like an evergreen option.
Oh, okay. They get that big, the
They
fruitless
get
ones?
like 35-ish,
Okay.
35. So they're like still on that lower end.
And are they
Um,
truly fruitless? Because you
if
have
they
your
were like stressed or something, I
okay.
think that they can produce a little bit. So it's just like maybe a teeny bit of
Okay.
it. Like I had somebody call me once and be like, I thought you told me this was a fruitless olive. And
Yeah.
I just, I did my research and I found that if it's a little stressed, that it
Got
might
it.
do that.
Okay.
But otherwise, yeah, you're looking at a tree that at least it's very little if it does do a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's the fruitless pear, and they're really not. They're
Not really. Yeah.
inedible fruit, but they have the fruit. So okay. So yeah. Okay. I like that evergreen. That's a great one for people who want an evergreen tree and low water. That's definitely low water. Okay. Any others? I won't
I
make
feel
you
like
do
this
3 if
might
you
not be
can't.
as popular for some people, but on a personal opinion, I
Uh-huh.
do like the Chinese flame tree. I think
Oh.
it's very pretty colored, but the thing is they do have those sort of like pods that
Yeah.
people might not like, but I think they're very pretty because they kind of look like little lanterns to
Is
me.
that okay, I know, not the rain tree, but the flame, is that, it's not
They're
Colretaria,
basically
is
the
it?
same.
Is it Colretaria? Is the flame tree?
Colorataria
Colretaria.
bipinata
Okay.
is the Chinese flame, and then the Colorataria paniculata is the golden rain tree.
Got it. Okay, so you said you like the flame tree. That one has the lanterns versus the seed pods.
And the color lasts a long time on those. It's sort of like having flowering for,
Mm-hmm.
like a month or more.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're not bad trees, right? They are good, decent trees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we cite them and
Okay.
put them out.
Okay.
They're faster growing, and I like them
Yeah. Yeah, you
personally
just
when
don't
I've seen them
see
around.
them that
Mhm.
much.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a few downtown Sac,
Okay.
and like randomly, they have some in like some of the parks and stuff too.
Got it.
But yeah, as far as like, I feel like in front of houses, maybe not
Mhm.
as much.
Yeah.
hmm
Okay. And you have a third one, or you want to just leave it two? I won't make you do
I like
three.
the bay laurel too. If you're trying to look for something with a little
Oh.
utility,
Oh,
Uh-huh.
yes.
you can use that leaf for cooking, the bay leaf.
Yeah. That's
And
Dolores
people are usually
nobilis.
sold on that idea of
Yeah.
having a tree that you can kind of do that. So definitely, I'll put those. People get excited
Yeah.
about that.
They tend to have more of a linear growth until they reach a certain size, and then they go wide. So they're like linear for a bit, and then they tend to, or is
Go
that
out a little
just
bit.
go out a
Yeah,
bit? I don't
I
know
would
if
say that
that's
that's true. I have to
okay.
think back, but yeah, I would think that that's sort of
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Because I think people are like, oh, well, this is going to be a very narrow tree. And then bam, they go.
hmm
So
Go a bit
yeah.
wider. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think what is it like? They kind of get as tall as they get, as they almost get as wide, maybe a little
Mm-hmm.
less.
Okay.
So they kind of broccoli out of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So you ready for large trees now?
Yeah.
Okay. Three large
Sure.
and large. I mean, guess these are your huge trees that could get, I don't know how.
If 50 is
I
medium.
know. Exactly.
Yeah, they can get up to 100, depending. So
Yeah.
some of the ones that we have and the ones that I like.
Okay.
I would say I have to go with the Valley Oak, just it being a
Yeah.
native, and I do like natives, and we do offer that one often.
Okay. How
And
many do
then
you
I would
cite? I
say,
mean, because those are probably hard to cite in an average
yeah, we
yard.
cite them about 18 feet from any like outdoor or like any foundation.
Okay.
And that's actually enough in our sighting.
Okay.
I have some in my neighborhood, and yeah, they're just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
They span the whole front yard and just completely changes the whole environment.
Yeah.
Nice and shady. Lots of little critters you can kind of watch, and then I love like oak galls.
Yes.
Looking at the little galls that get on
You
there.
probably get so many
Um,
questions about those, huh?
Oh yeah,
Constant.
I love explaining all the stuff about oak galls.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
find them pretty
Because
fascinating.
they have
Mhm.
the red cone galls and I don't know what the
Mhm.
round ball ones
The apple
are.
gall, yeah,
apple
the oak
galls.
apple
Yeah.
galls, and then
So
they have the ones that kind of look like little Hershey kisses on
yes.
the leaves,
Yes.
or little fuzzy ones too.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
the fuzzy
Are these
ones.
bad things?
no, they don't hurt
Mhm.
the tree. It's just a little wasp that doesn't hurt you or anything. They look like little flies essentially, and they basically kind of, I guess you would say, bite the tree in like a
Mhm.
non-scientific way. Bite the tree, and then it causes a reaction where it grows these galls, and then inside those galls are the eggs, and then eventually they kind of bore out of that, and yeah.
Yeah, they're fun I always think, oh, that would be a fun like photography collection to just go and try to categorize all the
All
galls.
of
All the
them.
galls.
Yeah,
The
all
gall of
the
you to think
galls.
of such
And
a
then my coffee table would be like for the gall of it. The gall of them.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I
We
definitely
bodied us, we
take
love
photos.
puns.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's jumping ones too. What are the jumping ones? Don't some even jump?
Oh, yes,
Yeah. I
I'm not
can't remember.
remembering, but I
Yeah.
definitely know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, they.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, the Valley Oaks, I agree. And that's good that you guys are only citing them 18 because they're not incredibly destructive by the time they get that
No.
big. I mean, they grow relatively fast early on. So they get to a good size and then of course they slow down. So you're not
Mhm.
so
Yeah, they're
nice.
actually faster growing. A lot of people
Yeah.
think that they're not,
Mhm.
but they actually
Mhm.
get a decent size pretty
They
quickly. I've
do.
seen some. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And pretty low pest problems. Really no
Um,
too many problems with them, right?
Yeah, currently
Yeah.
there is some borers that are looking
Okay.
like an issue that are coming
Uh-oh.
in, which is a little concerning.
Yeah.
But right, I mean, I still cite them. I
Okay.
don't believe that means you should stop
Yeah. Yeah.
citing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, so the Valley Oak. What's in the large section? What would be another tree?
I am a big fan of the ginkgos.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Okay.
love the leaf. I love the yellow color. I love kind of the story behind it, with it being like a prehistoric tree around the dinosaurs, and survived through that, and
Uh-huh.
is still here. And really hardy tree once it's like established, and it's like an average-ish water needs tree. I would say that's another favorite of mine,
Do you guys
for sure.
do you guys offer those?
We do, yeah.
You
We
do?
offer
Okay.
ginkgos.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Do you
'cause
Yeah,
separate ginkgos? Are you giving out male ginkgos or do you give out males and females?
we give out just the males.
the females aren't that bad. There's so many other things that stink in a neighborhood.
True. And
Right.
if you do see a female ginkgo, every so often you'll see an older gentleman collecting all the fruit because they used Chinese
They use it for
cuisine, I
stuff.
think.
hmm
Yeah, I
Yeah, they
remember.
use
Yeah.
use it for things. And well, interesting fact too is that there's ginkgos that are known. So they start out as a male, but then randomly, we don't really know why, they
Okay.
switch over to female and will
Interesting.
start dropping berries.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting fact. And then
Wow.
yeah.
We had
Another thing
a
about male and sorry, Marlene, what
No,
were
go
you
ahead.
saying?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Another thing about the difference between like male or female trees. A lot of people, they're wanting the male species tree because it doesn't tend to drop anything. It just has the
Mhm.
pollen. But if you have bad allergies,
Yeah.
it's not great for that.
Yeah.
So if you have bad allergies, you probably want to stick more to the female trees, and
True.
it's not going to affect you the same
Good
way.
point.
So
Yeah,
something
we
to think
have
about.
there was a professor who every year we had she did ginkgo research and we had to process the fruits of her ginkgos. So we'd all sit there with gloves up to our elbows, taking the outer skins, the fruit off of them, and a few people would break out into a horrendous rash every year.
Oh,
because
really?
it's-
Wow. I
Apparently,
didn't know that
it's
was a
the,
thing.
Yeah.
it's the same compound as in poison ivy called urushiol.
Oh, well, look at you,
So,
Bruce.
I think
Yeah.
I did
might
hear
make
about this
sense.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's edible, and yeah, I remember. I mean, Bruce, you're probably too young, Kayden, to remember. But when it first came out, everything was ginkgo. Take ginkgo for your memory. Take ginkgo for this. Take ginkgo for that.
Ginkgo biloba.
Yeah, ginkgo biloba. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it does smell. The fruit does smell, but come on, it's
It's not the worst thing in the world.
it's not the worst thing. It just smells
That
like
would be the corpse flower.
yeah. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
There you go. Okay, yeah, ginkgos. I have to agree. The color is phenomenal when you see it. It's very beautiful. Yeah.
Very pretty. Yeah.
Okay, and your last, not necessarily in this order of your favorite, but what would be a third large tree? Do you have a third one?
I would say it may be a little overplanted these days. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I would
That's okay.
say the Zelkova is an easy
Oh
one
yeah. Okay.
to plant. And it gets large fast. It doesn't really, the ones that we do a cultivar that again doesn't really drop anything. And so that's another really nice one in that sort of situation that I like. And I feel like I like the size and
Mhm.
the kind of vase shape
yeah.
that it gives. So yeah, that would
I'd
be another third one.
actually I don't see them planted as much as I think they should be.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
think
I
because
mean,
they do get big, but I don't think the
Mhm.
push is there for them. So I
Mhm.
think we should see
Mhm.
more of them. But yeah, they're good
Mhm.
trees. They don't have any, I mean, I not up on all these, but not too problematic.
No, they're kind of the replacement tree for like your elm
Yeah.
that
I was
has
going to say
the
they look a lot like
susceptibility.
Chinese elms.
Or
Mhm.
hackberries.
Yeah,
yeah.
they don't have that same susceptibility to
Yeah.
the Dutch elm's disease, so
Yeah.
they're a good kind of alternative in that sense.
Before, I know we're running out of time, and I do want to get your top 3 trees that are no-goes for you, but I do
Yes,
want to
I was waiting
mention
for that.
real quick, how has the ban, or has it not, affected people contacting you, the ban on imidacloprid and all the neonicotines? Because, Bayer tree and shrub, because we're speaking of hackberries, years
Mhm.
ago, the woolly aphid almost decimated all the hackberries.
Mhm.
And then Bayer came out with imidacloprid, just pour it, and then their studies show that that could possibly be what's killing off honeybees. And not even that, it's just any beneficials, pollinators that go to the flowers are getting
Mhm.
secondary toxicity. So if you had a lot of people contacting you, like, what do we, my crepe myrtle is covered in aphids.
What do I do with
What do I
this?
do?
Yeah.
What are you guys
I
recommending?
actually don't get too many people
Okay.
surprisingly calling me about
Okay.
it, but
Okay.
I would say you can kind of spray them off. This is
Mhm.
one thing if you really want to
Okay.
avoid using any sort of chemicals.
Yeah.
That's
I
sort of
imagine
one
you
way you can
guys
go about it.
I imagine you guys probably already had standard practices of not using it. So as far as what you guys are saying, it's probably not really changing what you're recommending. But I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if you came
We
out
tend to
with.
stay away from like those sort of
Yeah.
recommendations,
Yeah.
just
Okay.
kind of keep out of that a little bit. But
Yeah.
if you're trying to look at like a sort of a non-chemical way, is you're spraying it with water and kind of letting
Yeah.
it them kind of kicking them off of there essentially.
Yeah, get them young. Start if you know you had a problem the previous year, knock them
Mm-hmm.
down early. And really, it would take a lot to kill a tree. Yes, it will defoliate a tree. That's not necessarily the same thing as
Right,
killing a tree.
right, yeah.
So,
It's not you can go through a season of
uh-huh.
stress, and it doesn't mean that the tree's done for.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we see a lot of tulip trees they get infested with tulip tree midge, and they still come back every year, but they
Yeah.
just lose their leaves like late July.
Yeah.
So I think that you can have a tree get defoliated, and it may not last as long as you'd like, but it still will come back every year for a long time.
So,
Yeah.
Kayden, I wanna let you go on time. But can you give me your top 3 no-go trees? And they could be any, like just why you would never plant them, why you think people shouldn't plant them, and just a brief description of why.
I would say the redwood tree.
Okay.
I
Okay.
wouldn't plant. I mean, if you're giving them extra water and all things, but like just as time goes on and everything,
Mhm.
and the extra work that needs to go on, and a lot of times, I guess the experience that I've had at Urban Wood Rescue, large portion of the trees that are coming down or falling down or having issues are the redwoods
that
that come
right?
into our thing.
Okay.
It does make nice.
Yeah, I was gonna
lot of-
say, wow, all the tables.
So that, I guess that's one thing that would be negative. If people stop planting them, and then long term couldn't get that in like a urban wood sense. But let's see, and then if you're looking at higher water needs trees, and like just the way that sometimes people prune them, like the mulberry, maybe not so much. I do like it in some senses, but like that one maybe I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, those are the ones people pollard, and then once you do it that way, you have to sort of do it
expensive thing to keep up in the end.
Yes.
Yeah, every year you have to do that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they do like a lot of water, and they do have more surface roots, just the way they are. Okay, and then one more, which you're sick and tired of, or you see so many problems with it, or it just
maybe unpopular, but like the California sycamore, even though it's a native, it does have some issues going around, and it is kind of overplanted and kind of, I feel like, part of some of the problem. But maybe that might be an unpopular opinion, because people do really like that tree too.
Yeah.
So
I knew those two were going to be on your list.
Mm-hmm.
I knew those two. And then what was I'm surprised like the one of the fruitless pears didn't make it, like the Bradbury.
The Bradford. Yeah, I mean, that's another one. I didn't even think about that one. That would be another one that is also on the list. We can add a fourth.
Yeah, there you go. Because it's
I'm sure we could go on.
We could go on.
We could find a few others for sure.
So I do want to give people is it sactree.org?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you go to sactree.org, if you want to hear more about some of the things we talked about today, we have videos on how to plant a tree. We have that mulch resource on there. We have pruning resources. If you need help finding an arborist, you can go on there as well.
That's good. That's a big one.
If you want to learn more about our urban wood rescue program, or maybe you want a raised bed garden or a live edge slab table, there's also a link to the urban wood rescue stuff in there.
Do you guys have a list of your trees and just the description, even if people aren't SMUD customers?
Yes. Come look at the list of trees that we have on there. Has all sort of what the water needs are. We do have some little bit higher water needs trees.
Okay.
We do have, we have a range. So it's all dependent on kind of what you're willing to care for, and the space that you have. And we have sort of the characteristics all listed out on there. So definitely, even if you're not a SMUD customer, there's a lot of resources that you can still utilize.
Yeah, and even if you're not local to SAC, just the resources for how to plant, how to prune, and the list of trees if you're in a zone similar to 9, similar to ours, it's great resource. So thank you.
Exactly.
I mean, I could talk forever about trees. I'm sure you can too, and Bruce can too.
Yes.
There's so much more, but I think this is good, because a lot of people are confused about what trees, how, and definitely how to water young trees versus older trees. So I think we covered a lot. So yeah. So thank you, and until next time, everyone.
Yeah,
Happy
of course.
gardening.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. It was fun talking to you guys.
Bruce, you didn't do your ending.
Oh, I didn't hear you say anything. See you next time.
See you next time.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
There you go.
Bye.
All right. Bye.